Hey, this is Travis, co-founder of Hero Hair, with a custom cosplay wig gallery, Featurette Spotlight. And this is going to be a little longer than usual. We always like to lift the veil off as much as we can at the studio without giving away all of our secrets. But, we're also kind of a hub of information for cosplay wigs and cosplay wig education, not just showing off our wares and our portfolio and wigs that we've built for our clients. And you guys are going to have to excuse the lighting. We are slaves to natural daylight in the studio. And we're just going to let this run and loop a couple times as we get these production excuses out of the way. When we shot this on video, and there's high-res images in the main slide deck to the left of this video on the portfolio page, on the gallery page that you're on, which we shot on another day where we had better lighting. The reason that we shoot everything in natural daylight, even if it's overcast like this, and frankly the diffused quality of the lighting is not the best, but we don't try to make anything that it's not. We don't try to goose anything and make it look unnatural. This was the day we shot. This was the light we had to shoot in. We got high-res images later, so it was fine. We shoot everything in natural daylight because, and it's something that I learned from Lucasfilm years ago on the Return of the Jedi special features commentary, where they were talking about shooting the Ewok scenes with the chicken walkers, with the AT-STs, with the roll down of the hill of the logs. And it's the only way to get things to look real on camera, and it's the only way also to get actual color. The item or the wig or the prop in question's real color in full naturally lit sunlight conditions. So forgive the quality here, but there's high-res stuff on this page, and certainly the finished high-res images of the client in this wig in the client showcase page in the downloadable PDF portfolio. So a couple things before we get started. This is going to be a longer video because this wig entailed a lot of all of our resources. In fact, pretty much all of our resources to get this done accurately, from plotting out the individual braids and dreads and dread lengths and dread positions and ornamentation from the client, down to the reindeer shin, which we'll talk about in a little bit, that we actually custom built for this because we're not only a custom wig company. I mean, that's what we are, of course. But the resources that we have with our staff is basically a total amalgamation of prop smithing, of garment creation, of everything under the sun, makeup. And it's why we call what we do the full transformative illusion. It kind of eclipses cosplay and moves into the realm of actually inhabiting the character at a production level. And Hero Hair is a full production studio, be it wigs, facial hair, whatever the client needs, frankly. And it's one of the things that is generally less well known about us because, we don't necessarily advertise everything that we do, but once a client comes on and we start elevating their wig, often to match the impeccable nature and state of the cosplay build itself or themselves, that they've brought to the fore with us to complete their illusion. Not 9 times out of 10, but enough to call it often. The client very soon realizes that the wig has elevated the cosplay so much that perhaps elements of the cosplay, itself, is now not of a lesser quality, but not as pristine as the illusion is starting to present itself to be. It's in those instances where that realization takes place. And we are tasked, we are asked, or we offer our services and our resources by hooking up the client, connecting the client with our colleagues in the film and television industry, from garment creation to garment distressing to, and much of our staff has this experience. I myself am a leather distresser of 30 years, and I had my hands all over this new cosplay of our client to help him out, and we'll get more into that later in this video, and into some of the prop creation for the wig, the reindeer shin, everything else. And we don't charge for this. This client was, and many clients do visit us. We have clients all over the world. Just because our stuff is custom doesn't mean you can't have it if you live in Australia. We have one of our clients is Cosplay Chris out in Australia. So we go everywhere. But sometimes clients are local. They come into the studio for fittings and everything else. If not, we do it via Skype and measurements and mathematics and all that. But when they come in, it's always a pleasure. And this client, we were fortunate enough to be able to have him for a few days, and actually bring him out for this process to meet with the people that we connected him with, Griffin Millinery, who created the hat that we're about to get into this video. One of the distressors for a major television series. We connected him with her at a very, very reasonable rate. I mean, these are our friends and these are our colleagues, and they don't work for free, but they are available and at a substantially reduced cost than they would ordinarily supply their craft. To distress his jacket, to distress his bandana, and in the process teach him how to do it. We are educators, so that we had him in physically for this build on several occasions was a luxury. I had his name is Galen, and you can follow him on Department H on Instagram and Galen Department H on Facebook. We brought him into our Brooklyn studio, which is also our home. We have two studios, one in Manhattan, the main office, and then we have a Brooklyn loft where we do some satellite work. And we brought him here for 3 days, and it was he and me, he and I, out on the pavement with fuller's earth and sanding stones and neat's foot oil, distressing the belts and all the leather for this outfit, and me instructing him, and he took to it like a duck to water. He's an amazing natural artist and cosplayer. And down to his suede boots. I hand dyed his boots. I hand distressed them. It was a little bit advanced even for me, but he handled the glove, the hand glove, the palm glove, and he handled a lot of the belt wear, and it really turned out fantastic. But let's get more into this now. Let's start taking a look at what we did, starting with getting the measurements for where the new custom hat would be from Griffin Millinery. She did an amazing job. It's a one-of-a-kind reproduction. It's spot on, screen accurate, and we will go from there.
Okay, so thanks to our dear friend Marty, who printed these beautiful posters. Department H and Wind of Willow Cosplay get their own prints. So I'm gonna sign it to our dearest Galen.
Oh, the silver's sexy. Galen. Oh, look how happy he is. Yeah. And that's him on the poster too. Wow, that's
wonderful birthday present.
Actually, yeah, strikingly cool.
I think the only way I can top this is to actually be an action figure at some point.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, then there's that.
It's not like that can't happen.
Oh, I was so close. Except I've got a con next week that I gotta save.
We'll get you scanned. We're gonna get action figures of everybody available at here.
Well, I did do the scan.
Did you got scanned?
I got scanned today.
I want the proof.
Yeah, as soon as they email, I'll show you. But it's something.
So, the dreads are built separate from the wig on a separate block, and then what will happen, and then they'll be stitched on, and hair will be individually ventilated around them, because in that first film he's got a lot more hair than dreads. So what you can see in that opening scene when the wind is blowing, he's like, and then, but what will happen on this foundation in the meantime is a lot of hair will be ventilated to make those, like that braid dreadlock, and then to get those kind of hairs that come down that aren't dreads. In the meantime, what we can do, and our apprentice is on our way now with more dreads, is I can drape them up here where the hat would sit, so we can get kind of an idea of the width. And does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, because she's coming, I think, with like 4 more, so we'll have a good amount to pin around the top.
I don't know what movie we're making in this place. Shields
And then
that. Yes. Are we correct? I think that.
pretty big.
Are we right?
It was 27 right now.
Oh, we were close.
I mean, an inch is a lot, but
Yeah.
Well, it is and it
It's
isn't.
over. Like it's 27/7/8, but it's, you know.
We were
Everybody
dead
generally makes
on.
hats too small.
We were
so.
dead on. That is cool. That is really cool. Everything underway with the custom hat. Erin is going to start working with our staff in directing the primary build of both the custom wig and the custom facial hair, which is going to be in 5 pieces. Chops, main beard, mustache, and soul patch. So this is an involved process, and there are many phases to it. So if you think you hear something where it's set in stone, give it a few minutes, because we'll probably be readdressing it as we not only construct this wig, but learn about the mood and character of this signature style.
and then there's only a few dreads down here, so we'll have like
Some more.
we'll sew some wefts in here and a little bit of ventilating.
Okay. It makes a lot more sense now.
But yeah, I mean, this is about what it is. I counted 10 on one side, so I'm gonna say that there's about 20 total, not including the braid.
Mm-hmm.
And that looks like the right fullness to me too. That looks like,
Yeah.
it looks like all of our reference. Like, I don't think it gets any fuller than that or more dreaded than that. And then there's the hair, of course, that is in between it and all around it and over it.
I really, yeah. Actually, doing that like just made so like it like came together in my brain.
Perfect. Yeah. So yeah, it's looking awesome.
All right,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, no, and then we look at it from the front.
So like today, you should give me more than just 5 to do.
Like, you should give me more.
Custom facial hair, like all of Hero Hair's custom wigs, are either human hair, natural human hair, or our exclusive HD synthetic fiber. It's the same synthetic that we use in film and television. Or a combination of both. The use of either beholden to the design needs of the piece itself. Facial hair has a million different moods, a million different textures, in a million different colors on a million different people. Once fully built, this custom facial hair application will then be split into its constituent 5 parts in order to allow full range of movement on the face without pulling, grabbing, or warping the lace. You're looking at, obviously, the client's padded out chin block with his custom facial wrap that he did on our tutorial. When the client follows along that tutorial and creates their initial tracing, which we also walk them through, we often make ourselves available via Skype, free of charge, as always, to give them a hand if they decide they need one, if they don't have any artistic ability. But it doesn't have to be perfect, because once we get it in the studio, I, as the also the screen accuracy officer, chief screen accuracy officer, because I invented the term, and believe it or not, that's a truism. Fangoria magazine, circa roughly 1989, 1990, for a prop I was building. I needed a way to say exact replica without getting into too much trouble. So I coined the term screen accurate. You're welcome. I also own the domain. We get the chin blocks, we get the head wraps and the pattern on the padded out head blocks. I go in and I replicate if it's an actor in a movie, I replicate their hairline, going through a lot of resources and reference to do it. Same thing for facial hair. If it's an anime character, if it's a cartoon character, we match those hairlines as well. And you were just looking at the previous clip, some of the human hair that went into this wig. This wig being a combination of human and HD synthetic. And the two swatches that you were able to see there were demonstrative of our color pulling process with the human hair in order to get blonde versus brown to match the screen hair as best we can. And going back into the hairline a little bit, and we talk about that a lot. We talk about the things that kind of make us different. And this wig is built, or at this point in the video, will be built into the bandana. We're doing it much like the sequel wigs were built. The original wig for the first film was not attached to the bandana. They very quickly realized it would be easier for Johnny to don the entire piece attached to the bandana. And we thought for the client that would be easier as well, rather than having it in a two-piece manifold. So regardless, whether you're going to see it or not, it's got Johnny's hairline under that bandana. I made sure that the staff was very vocal in asking me exactly why, and I said, because I'll know it's there. And it's one of the few times I like to kind of pull my weight around the studio and say, no, you're doing that. And it's nice. It's an OCD thing. It's an anal thing. But I like to know that the client actually has the actor's hairline under that bandana, even though we sewed the entire wig into the bandana. You'll never see it off. But it is there. Now, it's not to the fine detail that we do everything else, because you're never going to see it, so we didn't do any of the fine mohair or the fine, fade, that gradation that we do with our hyper-realistic hairlines, because you'll never see it. But the shape is all there.
We don't have any of the pieces on it yet.
And I'm going to always remind, because, wow, you're doing a great job. I'm always going to remind that this is part 1.
Yes.
Which is very different from the sequels,
Yes.
because it's actually mostly his hair mixed in with the dreads versus mostly dreads.
Yeah.
So this is going to give him that nice flappable when hero reveal shot, when we treat all this hair a little bit more. And
Give it a
give it
wave.
A wave, but
The wet look.
the wet
The
look.
oceany wet look.
The oceany wet look.
Yeah.
Wow.
That
Not bad.
short sit against his face.
Right. The
And then need more volume over
yeah,
here.
he's got one little like
There's-
wormy dread right
yeah,
there.
and then there's one right here too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Great. Yeah, no, I mean, for a first trial style of the full, can I get a sweep right?
Yeah.
Of the full hair placement, the main back braid, several of the dreads, at least in their moderately correct positioning,
Yeah.
with all the custom hair that you built, we built.
I would say, yeah, I would say.
This is like within the 70% already, frankly. I mean, this is really tight. We'll get all the accoutrements from the client, which he left with us. This is obviously a temporary bandana for the build. Wow, part 1, more hair than dreads. This is looking really great for a first put together, guys. Nice job.
So there's Johnny's finished hairline, which Christine Evans, our hairpiece application specialist, is placing the bandana over. And it's screen accurate, and we're the only custom wig company that works this way. It's something that we instigated, something that we created, a methodology to not just give a close approximation of the hairline of the wig and the hairline of a mustache or a beard or chops or what have you, but to also physically, to the finest detail, recreate this stuff to where it is instantly recognizable. The hairline is half the build visually. It's why a client of ours can walk up to somebody, and even if they don't necessarily look exactly like the character, and we do have clients, a lot of them, you know, they're saying cosplay your type, which, you know, is a misnomer. Cosplay is for everybody, but, you know, some people tend to gravitate toward their archetype. I'm a cosplayer of that nature. I do a lot of Harrison Ford stuff. And even on something like this, where, you know, we could take a shortcut here or there and just make it work, we don't. You know, if there's a three hair difference in density on the reference, we'll match that. And growth patterns, you know, hair grows in all different directions, even on the face, and we match that hair direction growth, and it's plotted out oftentimes, more so in the wig than the facial hair, because we have more real estate. But we'll get more into that.
Down here, because the kerchief is going to be pretty close to this, and you'll have hair coming off.
Yeah, like right in front of
Yeah.
here. I just want to
But
make
up
sure
here it can be pretty
this is where
loosey-goosey.
nubbins are going to be.
Yes.
Yeah, so yeah, I'll do it soft like this.
Okay,
That'd
so
be nice.
Johnny's hairline is yellow, and awesome sauce. Looks great. Gotta get in there and weather those straps. Just awesome. Beautiful.
The reindeer shin for this wig, which is also referred to in the cosplay community as a marlin spike, but it is in fact a reindeer shin, which I think is hilarious, is as you see here in the sequels. This is a reproduction that's available readily online. And then the second image is closer to how it appeared in the original. So there are some slight differences, and subtly slight differences, are actually not that slight. The original was much longer. It was far less pristine in terms of its surface detail. The sequel shins were marlin spikes, basically, and sanded and very clean in terms of texture, a little bit of weathering. But the original was heavily weathered. Had this really wonderful green patina that I really wanted to recreate for the client. And the reason that, you know, we recreated it for him is because, and you can see it here, here's my, you know, my work efforts on his custom shin, which I'll talk about in a second. It was some kind of, wasn't even plastic, it was some kind of, I didn't even know what the material was, and it snapped. I mean, as soon as we got, as soon as we got it, it wasn't even kind of, you know, the accurate sequel ones that you can get online. I don't know where he got it. It was 4 inches too short, and it snapped in nearly the minute we opened it out of the box. So I made a very quick decision that, you know, he's investing in this wig. He's investing in time. He's coming out to the studio periodically from Louisiana to New York to visit. I'm going to go ahead and knock out a proper reindeer shin for this wig. So I spent about 3 days on it and used a 2-part hardening resin, which I then took to work with dremeling, you know, grinding it down as best I could match the brief shots you can see it on screen with Johnny, and really tried to give it that authentic Part 1 motif. I used a stock model paint for model miniatures. It's actually the stuff that, you know, when you have little battleground sets, little teeny tiny model miniatures, pewter usually, and it's a bone and bone tone. I then actually, you know, I did something, because I couldn't get that green to really set with paint, so I went and I got metal dye, and it worked really well over the bone paint, and I was able to really control that kind of putrid, you know, green algilistic hue, if you will, and implement it into this new piece. And, you know, like you see here, I started with a wire hanger. This is how we, you know, cosplayers do things. We're crafty. So I got crafty with this, and it's screen accurate. And you know, the lovely thing, again, and I keep using that phrase, you know, which I'll own till my grave, probably put it on my headstone. Screen accurate does not, you can never be completely exact. It's impossible. There's always going to be a nuance. I don't care if it's at the micron level or subatomic level or really glaring. I always say this: screen accurate is as screen accurate does. If you can get something close between the 90 to 95 percentile and still have some variances, you're screen accurate. So don't beat yourself up too much if you're OCDing about detail nightmares. We're going to slow things down for one of these last sections here, talking about one of the aspects of wig making in general that is important to address and give some, not only some information about, remember we are educators as well as craftsmen, but also to dispel yet another misnomer of wig making and custom wig making. And I know what you're thinking already. What is this guy doing here? Well, this is Captain Cosplay, and he is not only a dear friend of ours, he is also a client and an official Hero Hair cosplayer. And you are looking at one of our pieces, and we're studying him, frankly, if you want the transparent truth. I wasn't in the studio enough frequently enough during the build of the Rum Soaked Pirate to catch any of the ventilation work, and nobody filmed it. So we've got a lot of ventilation work filmed, it's just didn't have that. So I'm using this as kind of a diagram. And he is not wearing a full wig, he's wearing a 3/4 custom crown piece. It's generally referred to as a toupee. We don't like that term, so it's, for us and all intents and purposes, referred to as a crown piece. So, and you'll see it off of him in a minute. And if you didn't know, Chris Evans, and he was very vocal about this in Vanity Fair a few years back, wore a piece. We reproduced that piece. He wore a piece from TFA, the first film, all the way up until AOA, one of the last films in the series. And it appears that he's had a really great transplant, but he's still using wigs. He's still using wigs in the brand new film, which we'll talk about at another time. And probably for reshoots and things like that. So you can see he's got real hair. That's him before and after. But much like Chris Evans, he had a very strong recede. And we saw fit to fit him up with a screen accurate piece. And we're going to talk about ventilation. And ventilation is the hand tying, which is the common thread, of hair, be it HD synthetic or human hair. And we did choose human hair for this custom crown piece, 100% human hair, because we found the perfect selection of blondes, frankly, and they were just extraordinary. And the reason that hand ventilation is done is pretty specific. It is because it's the truest way to mimic natural hair growth, and it's primarily done almost 100% on short wigs, because you are seeing really far down to the scalp. And hand ventilation of our hairlines, which they're always hand ventilated, and they're hand ventilated about 3 inches back into the main piece if it's not a short wig. And if it's short wig, it's completely hand ventilated. It's the only way to get those tiny invisible knots that go flush with the skin upon application. Now it's important to note that one method, ventilation, versus another method, wefting, is not better than or more preferred than that other. It's just done for the different mechanical needs of the build itself. And hand ventilating takes up the most time. Our wigs take between 90 to 120 hours to create, just with the ventilation that we do, which is roughly 60% of the time. And here is Kate Broomhead, our cosplay continuity director and wig master in residence. She works on Aladdin and Wicked, hand ventilating this piece. Wefting is our other application process with custom wig making. It is the sewing in of custom-made sections of hair to basically fill out the volume on a wig where you would never see it at the scalp. It's a time-saving measure, it's a money-saving measure for us. And used specifically on large wigs or long wigs. And here is another one of our clients. This is Wind of Willow's Cosplay, Heather. And these are great shots by Jason LeBoy that she allowed us to use. And this is her custom wig we built for her. And this is a great example of a combination of hand ventilation and wefting for an extraordinarily long wig. This wig, I think it's 46 inches or something like that. It's almost 4 feet. I have to go back to the records to confirm that, but it's long. And it is the longest we've built to date. Although we'll be doing a much larger and longer wig. For 2018, we'll be doing Rapunzel, public domain Rapunzel, for another client. So it'll be a much larger project. But this is a really great example of a combination of efforts and build methodologies into a custom wig, hand ventilation, and custom wefting to create a really screen accurate, true to life result. And I mean, this wig has 22 separate colors. I think the clock in time was 120 hours at last recollection. And we were thrilled with it. But it's at times like these when we always try to kind of dispel the myths, you know. Just because you see a wig is completely hand ventilated or completely 100% human hair advertised somewhere online, you know, by a stock wig company or a custom wig company or whomever, it doesn't make it a better wig. As I said, a good wig makes a good wig, and in the hands of professionals like us, who do this every day in film, television, on Broadway. With, you know, I think a collective 100 years between all of our staff in the business, this is what you can achieve, and it's what we are so very honored to create. And here are some of the original custom wefts that went into this wig. Huge, long stretches of hair. And these are just some of the blended colors that went into it. And you can see Kate, who makes all of our custom wefts, beginning the process. And you know, like everything else, it's a very involved process. One that takes meticulous time and meticulous detail and attention to the fine points. In conjunction with, you know, the build parameters and the plotting and all the R&D and the meetings that we have for every wig and staff meetings, and it just, you know, this is why it takes 4 months to build a proper wig, and we're getting pretty good at it, I must say. After almost 5 years, we're getting pretty good. Christine, what are you doing right now in this wig?
I am adding just a couple of little wefts to the back and just stitching those in.
It's like spaghetti.
It's very much like
There's
spaghetti.
there's so much going on in this wig.
There is. And it's a joy, because this particular weft is only one weft that I'm sewing in. Some of these are 3 or 4 wefts deep. And
See,
that's a lot to sew through. So this is almost like, you know, I was thinking like vacation, you know?
So what you're saying is there's a lot of work that goes into this wig, is what you're saying.
That's one way of putting it. There's a lot of love that went into this wig.
For sure. And Erin, what are you doing?
Burning his facial
You
hair.
doing the facial hair for that wig?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Erin is the head wig designer and fabricator. She directs the entire crew, but she has her hands in every wig we make. In fact, something she's fond of saying is she couldn't believe creating these wigs and just letting them go and never touching them again.
See.
So there's probably, we use like 3 different textures of hair in this to get all the different points on the wig.
Right.
Sometimes his hair's a little straighter, sometimes it's a little wavier and beachier looking.
Right.
This is the texture we're going for all around.
Right.
So there's some hair that we have to add that to, like this, over here,
And a little bit of
a little
product
bit in the
also.
front,
Right.
give it a little oil sheen.
Right. Such as all this stuff here. We're going to texture that up, right? You should say yes because the folks are
Yes,
probably-
correct.
Just cut the hair. Haven't treated the hair yet with product yet. Said yet twice. It's fine. Yeah. I said yet twice. Remember, the hat's going to compress all this down. And it's built to hold the hat. We're going to do a couple of circumference tests. Anyway, haircut's done. We sewed the support bump. It's got that nice, perfect curvature. All right, come along. Sorry, I got your hands.
And with that, the wig has been completed and stowed in our back office, awaiting final photography before shipping to the client. And we are finishing the facial hair in tandem, so we were fortunate to have Galen in for one more visit. Again, we do this all over the world. You don't have to be local, but we love it when you are, because it's a privilege to have you in the studio. During his 3 visits over a few days to our studio, Galen was fitted for not just 1, but 2 custom wigs by us, which you saw earlier in the video as well. Before he finally left with all of his gear, all of his distress gear that we helped him elevate to match now the elevated level of his wig and his beard. And the wig was, all the dreads were numbered and individually stabilized for the trip home in its custom storage and transportation case, which comes with all of our Hero Hair wigs. You can see that in our What is Hero Hair video on the What is Hero Hair page.
The proceeding was a special presentation brought to you by Hero Hair, cosplay wigs for the serious adventurer.
It's made with unicorn hair.
down to the dent.